Welcome to the Same Day Podcast, where we discuss driving incremental business growth and other topics related to real estate, property management, and entrepreneurship. Now to the show at hand.
Matt Zalk here. I'm the host of the Same Day Podcast, where I connect with top business leaders and real estate experts. I've had previous folks on the podcast: Mike Bosch of Atento Capital, Lee Easton of AeroVision, Chip Gabrino of Topeka Coffee. I have Scott Reeves on the podcast, Chickasaw Community Bank, great community banker. Before we get to that, we'll do a quick sponsor message. Today's episode is brought to you by Keyrenter Property Management. At Keyrenter Property Management, we're a full-service property management company helping our clients buy, renovate, and operate real estate assets. We help our clients build wealth while taking the headache out of real estate management. Listen, Scott, one way we do that is by paying clients invoices. That can be mortgages, that can be property taxes, that can be insurance bills. You and I have a mutual client, Ryan and Jason, out of the Bay Area, and we actually pay their insurance bills, their mortgage bills, their property taxes. What does that help them do? It helps them do what they do best, which is actually acquisition, building relationships with people like you, and it helps them really focus on the core of their real estate acquisition and their portfolio. In fact, Keyrenter's helped Ryan and Jason turn a non-performing 14-unit property into a 100-plus unit property portfolio. Their houses are renovated, they're single-family, multifamily, and we're pretty proud of their accomplishments. That's why no matter what rental you have, single-family homes, condos, townhomes, apartments, we have the management solutions that you need. Go to Keyrenter Tulsa, Keyrenter Oklahoma City, or KeyrenterArkansas.com for more details, or you can email us at info@KeyrenterPMC.com. Before reintroducing today's guest, I want to give a big thank you to Chickasaw Community Bank. Scott, what's Chickasaw's website?
www.ccb.com.
Beautiful. www.ccb.com. They specialize in commercial banking, particularly in real estate. Scott Reeves, our guest today, is an Oklahoma State graduate, grew up in Tulsa, and has been in banking for over 20 years. He was the 2021 top loan producer for Chickasaw Community Bank. I know that we use Scott personally. He's a great banker. We're going to get into that today. But Scott, tell us a little bit about how you got started.
I graduated Oklahoma State in 1989, and my father was a salesperson, and that's kind of the direction that I got into. And during that time period, I started off selling office supplies, and then I sold Oscar Mayer hot dogs, and then I went into medical supplies and business forms. And then one day I interviewed for a job with American Express selling credit cards. So that was my first entry point into what I call banking. So I started doing commercial credit cards. I had a great career with American Express, a great company, and I transitioned there to another bank selling commercial credit cards, and moved into more of a business development role for the entire bank. And had a great career there for over 11 years, and saw the opportunity with the Chickasaw Community Bank and what was going on here, and came over here a little bit over a year and a half ago. So I really enjoyed the community bank field.
Beautiful. Let's step back for a couple of seconds to the beginning of your career. What were you proud of in selling Oscar Mayer wieners? What was the how did you find success, and what was your biggest accomplishment there?
Oh, I think with Oscar Mayer, it's a perishable product. So it is the one thing I've learned in my sales career is I've been very good at prospecting, and I made a career out of prospecting new business and I learned that from selling different things on how to cold call, how to use marketing tools to open doors, and I've been very successful at it. So the funny part about Oscar Mayer is there were certain parts of Oklahoma that I would sell more liver loaf or weird kind of lunch meat than anywhere else in the United States. So that was an interesting part, but another great company.
In fact, on the cold calling side, I mean, you and I met because you cold called me and you said, "Are you interested in a new banking relationship?" And at the time, I didn't think I really was. But you called and I suggested you come to a networking group that I was a part of, or that we are both still part of. And And we've done a lot of business ever since. So the cold calling thing really works. What's the scariest part about cold calling, or what's the secret to people that are in the industry, where they need to cold call and may not have found the ultimate success, but might want to go that route?
Well, something I talk a lot about, and I've done a few sales trainings, is I did not like cold calling in 1989 when I first got out of college. I do not like it today, but it's something you have to do. It's all about activity. You can be the greatest salesperson in the world, but if you don't have any activity, you will not succeed. So, and you can be the worst salesperson, but have enough activity that you'll still succeed. So it's a combination of both that, and it's changed a lot, Matt. It's, with technology and LinkedIn and social media, that whole landscape has changed dramatically from when I first started, and you're picking up the phone or writing letters and things.
How do you muster up the courage, or what sales practice do you use? Do you calendar time? How do you force yourself to do cold calling if it's something you don't really like to do?
Well, it's kind of like fishing. I'll use that as an analogy. You're going to go fishing at a lake, and some days you're going to catch a lot, and some days you're not going to catch anything. So that's a great analogy that, it's the hunt. And then when you do catch something, you get somebody, that's the thrill. That's the best part of the job, is finding that, that customer that fits really well with you. But you may have to make several hundred calls before you get to that right prospect. Right.
And so transitioning forward, you had a bunch of different stepping stones, but you got to Chickasaw Community Bank. What was the transition? You went from American Express into banking. What was that transition like? Was it easy? Was it hard?
It's still hard. I mean, I understood the treasury management pieces of banking. I understand the commercial card, but obviously being a commercial lender is and a lot more involved in it. I've always had the business development skills. I think I'm done very well in that aspect. But I have a lot. There's a lot of tools at my disposal here at the bank, and I've had some really good mentors to work with on the finance side. So,
sorry, go ahead.
I mean, when I was, it was kind of funny. I was having lunch one day with a real estate investor and I was working for another bank, and I started listening to them and what they'd done with buying single family rentals and multifamily. And it just clicked in my head that this is what I want to go do. This is the type of lending I want to be involved in. And that's what made my decision.
And what about it was exciting in that, when you're talking to those people?
I mean, it's pretty, doing that type of lending, it really is not that complex as you would think. And just watching people be successful in that area and how they did it, that was, I want to be one of those guys. I want to be an investor and be a commercial lender. So,
right. So fast forwarding through to Chickasaw Community Bank and being the top producer of 2021, what allowed you to get there? It's not just cold call prospecting, presumably it's other relationships and you've got to get the deal done. I mean, what allows you to take a relationship and I mean, there are plenty of bankers out there. Lord knows there's a lot of competition. So what allows you to go from the point where you've got the relationship or you've made a cold call through to actually getting the deal done?
It's a couple of things. So, having the key relationships, having those key partnerships are really critical. Answering the phone, being proactive with people, you got to stay top of mind with them. And, I'm always managing a sales funnel,
right.
So, you got to have the top always filled up, and then you're trying to, drive them through the funnel. Right. And that's just something that's been inbred into me since 1989, that sales funnel. So I'm constantly looking at it, and I'm constantly prospecting.
So tell me more about answering your phone. I mean, here at Keyrenter, we so often hear when you pick up the phone, somebody say on the other end of the line, "Oh my gosh, you guys are the seventh person that I've called, but the first person to answer the phone." And it drives me crazy that they're the seventh person that we are the seventh person that they've called, but it makes me happy that we're the only ones answering their phone. I've said for so long that our key to success is just answering the phone. Tell me about you mentioned the same thing, which just seems, it's obviously critical for any industry, but you're finding success in just answering the phone. Tell me about that.
I mean, in the loan cycle, from the very beginning to gathering their financials, to going over the structure of the deal, the rehab budgets, to insurance docs, to me presenting a memo, getting approval. There's a lot of steps involved, to ordering appraisal, to ordering title.
Right.
And so, especially whether it's a new investor or a very experienced investor, this is a big deal. They're making a purchase, a recurring revenue. I mean, they're excited about a property that's going to make them money. So they want to know where they're at in that process. Are they going to close in time? And I think that's what sets me apart. Is I want to answer the phone. I want to make sure that they know where they're at in the process. One thing is, we want to be the fastest yes or the fastest no, because that's what people want to hear.
Right. Absolutely. So what can someone do to make your life easier and their life easier? You have a bunch of steps in the process. I come to you with a property. I've got it under contract. I need to get it financed. I'm against a deadline. Time is tight in general. I mean, right now in 2022, it's still pretty crazy. Appraisers are still backed up. Lenders are still backed up. Title work has to get done and they're backed up. What can somebody do to get the process started immediately and make your life easier so that you can close the transaction on time and get the financing put in place?
Well, there's a couple things. They can have, I will ask for, their personal tax return, their business tax returns, their personal financial statement, an existing rent roll. I'll need all that information. The quicker I get that, the quicker I can start on my analysis. If I'm having to go back and piece and ask for this piece and keep following up until I have everything ready, that memo doesn't get done. The other piece is being ready for the insurance towards the end, having that piece, title work, and then, going out, and a lot of people will do rehab. So I'll have to have a rehab budget, all those steps and working with me. And that's where that communication is just constantly happening we're constantly trying to get to the finish line.
I'll say on the single family side, we use Chris Lyle. I know you guys use Chris Lyle a lot too. State Farm Insurance. They're by far the most reasonably priced insurance in many parts of Oklahoma. Also super quick to get to turn around a certificate of insurance or whatever they actually do. With Chickasaw Community Bank as the named insured on the policy. And then for multifamily, they also have pretty good policies right now. Things ebb and flow with State Farm on the multifamily side, but certainly in the 15 to 20 unit range, they can do some pretty competitive stuff. We also go over to Rich and Cartmill, which is Jason Mayfield, is the broker that we use over there, and they also have historically had competitive rates, but the commercial space in apartments is just tough in Oklahoma. We have so many hail claims, we have so many other storms that come through. It just becomes a really burdensome bill to be able to, or to have to pay, I should say. But so in essence, if somebody wants to expedite the process, they can have one folder that has their tax returns, that has their business tax returns, that has any other financial details that they know you're eventually going to need anyway. So just throw it all together into one folder and pop that across to you, and it makes it a lot easier. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
That's key.
And what other stuff? What are you looking at criteria wise as to whether you're willing to lend to a person on a property?
Yeah, there's several. I mean, we're going to look at either personal debt service coverage ratio. Can they afford this investment that they're getting ready to buy? We're going to look at the project itself. Does it cash flow based upon the rent projection or the current rent? And then we're going to look at it from a global standpoint as well. We're going to look at their credit score, and that's kind of a little bit about their character. Do they have a lot of late bills? Or are they paying their bills? That makes a big difference. Experience, not that we won't do a first time investor, we will, and we do a lot of them. Right. And then, we also, in our memo, we also put down if this property is going to be managed by a property manager, because that means a lot in our loan committee, that we know that somebody's managing the process, whether it's the rehab, They're managing the rent, getting the rent up. I mean, that is something it is required that I put in that in the memo that is managed by a property management company. And you guys do a great job.
Oddly enough, I didn't even know that. That's great to hear, but I didn't even know that. So when somebody's a first-time investor, you're going to look at their credit score. You're going to look at everything you're going to look at for a seasoned investor. But what else can that person do to help get that memo through the credit committee and get a loan on the property that maybe a more seasoned investor doesn't have to do?
I mean, we're looking at their liquidity. We're asking them to put 20% cash in at the purchase price. Sometimes it's 15%. Every deal is a little bit different on the structure, but having that liquidity, that cash, is important to us as well. And basically, can they afford? It's just like if I loaned you money,
right?
Can you pay me back?
Sure.
And I'm going to look at all those factors.
And what happens when somebody comes to you with a deal that's got plenty of warts on it, and they say, I want to do the rehab, the construction. What's the structure of the loan, or what are some options for the structures of the loans that you guys can provide?
I mean, typically we're looking at 20% down on the purchase price. We're looking at we'll do 100% of the rehab, but it really we're looking at that loan to value to stay at a certain range during for that period. We can do an interest only period for the construction side. We do a lot of that for the rehab budget. I mean, that's the basic structure of a single family unit.
And how involved are you? Like, for example, when I actually found a property that I live in now that we did a construction financing deal. It was actually a 30-year conventional mortgage. It wasn't a commercial deal, but every time I stuck a 2x4 in the property, I'd have to send them an email and say, hey, by the way, I'm now 37.64% complete. And they would send out somebody to look at it and make sure that stud was actually in. And then when I, did electrical, the same thing, did sheetrock, same thing, put HVAC in, same thing. How involved are you guys in terms of making sure that the rehab is working, that the rehab is progressing as you fund some of the construction?
Well, I have some great people that work for me that assist me. And so I will have, Jamie is usually involved in this. And so she will, one will set up an account for them automatically with the bank. So they'll do a draw. And when they do a draw, they're sending me an invoice. And that's where, people like yourself, property manager, really pays dividends because you got it all done for us.
Right.
And then we'll transfer that money out into their bank account or pay you directly. Either way, it becomes a lot easier for them so that they're tracking those expenses, because we have to track those. And then we'll send out an inspector to come out to see that the work has been done.
Right. I can see it makes it a lot more, it's a lot easier if we can just send you an expense report that has all the expenses on one report. And I can give you a kind of a perspective of where we are in construction and how much more in terms of time and budget we're going to need to get the job done. And then obviously you have more faith in the projected numbers if we're able to, tell you what we think that's going to be with our expertise. So that makes a lot of sense. Let's go back. I mean, tell me about earlier parts of your career and things that you learned, lessons that you learned that helped you once you switched into the commercial banking role. We talked about prospecting already, so let's leave that aside for a second. Cold calling, painful. I got that. What else kind of has helped you chalk up big milestones in your career in banking?
I think it's about listening more than anything. Just listening to the client and asking the right questions. Sometimes I'll just say, what do you want to do here? What's your ideal deal, situation that you want to put together, and opening it up and just listening to them and just being very transparent. And here's what I can do, or this, what's most important to you in this deal, and then trying to come up with, we're looking for ways to get deals done. And I think we're one of 3 banks in Oklahoma that are really good about figuring that out.
You and I recently did a deal together. We share a mutual client that was doing an apartment complex refinance. And client came to me one day and was joking that, Scott Reeves is the guy that always answers his phone. So I certainly think that I don't want to harp on it too much, but I certainly think that is such a critical component to getting deals done. Tell me a little bit about the importance of communicating in the loan process and how you, Scott Reeves, go the extra mile to figure out how to get deals done. And let's talk for a second about that apartment complex refinance and why that client was joking about you always answering the phone.
It was a joke because I missed answering his call by 5 minutes. So I called him back in 5 minutes. He goes, "That's the first time that you have not answered the phone." But in order to do that, with the amount of emails I get a day and phone calls, a lot of stuff has to be done after hours and or really early in the morning. And the rest of it's just communicating, because it's amazing how many, like I said, and I know how many steps are involved to get to the finish line. And it's a lot. Right. So answering the phone is just, they're excited. They're wanting to get things off their plate, and they need to talk to somebody. And so that's what I try to do for them.
And people just want to feel like the ball is being pushed, down the field. People just want to feel like it's not, there's no stagnation in the process, and we're always making a little bit of progress, even if it's minimal on a daily basis. There are so many hands that come in and touch any given deal. I mean, again, there's the appraiser, there's the banker, there's the title work that needs to happen. There's inspectors. There's so many things, and people just want to make sure that the ball's not being dropped, and that whoever's court the ball's in, it's kind of, it's being pushed forward. Tell me a little bit more. So you transitioned into banking. You went from bank to bank a couple times. What led to some of those decisions, and what do you find to be the biggest difference in what's going on at Chickasaw Community Bank vis-a-vis other banks that you've worked at in the past?
That's a great question. I've worked for American Express, great marketing company, really, sales organization driven with a great product. I've worked for another bank here in town, regional bank, and it was, it was a little different as a regional bank because I feel like it was becoming a much larger bank. And with that comes that transition to a nationwide bank is right. There's a lot of things that change. Right. And I've worked for the large banks as well. And so to me, it's more clear cut. With the larger the bank, the more it's more policy driven. And it's like you're putting something in a computer and it's spitting out yes or no. To me, that's what it feels like. Right. And to every state is different. So what's going on in Oklahoma is going to be very different than what's going on in California or Arizona.
Sure.
So having a bank locally that understands that is very important, and especially the housing market and the rental market and the multifamily, that the community bank is going to have a better understanding of what that looks like. And that's where, there's a lot of reasons. Like somebody that has, their credit score is marginal. There could be some really good reasons for that. And if you are a big investor into real estate, your credit's getting pulled a lot. So they can pull it down as well. I'd rather have that guy and seeing that he has no delinquencies or late, but, that's just part of the equation. So that's not a huge deal. And some banks, that's a no automatically. Right. Bank, it's not. We're looking at a lot of different factors, and they said there's 5 C's to credit, but the most important one is character, and I believe that too. Is this person going to pay me back? Is this person going to be transparent with me? That's very important.
And so, where were you right before you joined Chickasaw Community Bank? Who were you working with?
The bank. I was with a bank called UMB Bank out of Kansas City.
And did you have mentors there that helped kind of propel you through to this transition to Chickasaw?
Absolutely. Yes, I did. And there's a lot of people in banking that came through UMB Bank that I've had the pleasure to work for, and they're great people.
And what are the biggest lessons you learned from some of your top mentors?
Some of them, there was some of them that would just really had a not quit attitude. Like they would stay up all night writing a memo. Oh
my God.
And again, it's about, working harder than the other guy. And I've learned that. I've learned probably a little bit of patience from other people I've worked for, just being patient with the process. That's also very important too.
Yeah. On a personal side, what are you doing for fun? What do you like doing when you're not at the office?
I spend a lot of time. I live in Coweta on 20 acres, and I spend a lot of time with my family. I like to fish. I laugh about. I like to mow a lot, so I find it relaxing. So I have a 17-year-old daughter that I just adore, and I have the probably deserves a medal being married to me, and I have 2 stepkids, and life is good.
What are you enjoying about mowing when you're out there? Tell me about your process.
It's it might take me 7 or 8 hours to mow my place.
Wow.
So I put on my music, my headphones, and it's a very mindless thing, but I'm thinking the entire time, thinking about work, thinking, just about a lot of things. By the end of it, I've worked everything out that I need to work out for the next week. So.
Wow. Mowing, 7 or 8 hours of mowing. And you haven't thought about outsourcing it? You're committed diehard to that thinking time and doing it yourself?
I'm taking it a step further than that. I actually bought my wife a mower this year. And she did it one time, and she's now addicted to it as well.
So you have to her.
She loves it because the sun, you're outside, she's getting sun, and she's very OCD, so she likes to the straight lines and everything. So she just loves it. So I was like, well, okay, you can do this half over here. So
it sounds like a good compromise.
It is a good compromise. I had to let her in on the secret.
That's funny. You grew up on the east side of Tulsa. You've got some crazy stories. Tell us some of the crazier things that you've done in your life.
Oh man. There's a lot there. That's around. There's a few stories. I learned a lot from growing up in East Tulsa. I saw a lot of people that didn't have fathers and didn't, that weren't born on third base. And I was very lucky to be born in a middle class family. And but it really, the climb is really hard for people that don't have those advantages. And so, I think that's, it stays in my mind, there's a lot of people that are not, it's a harder climb to get to where they need to get when they grow up in those conditions. Yeah,
absolutely. That's so true. It's absolutely true. Winning the I guess they call it the birth lottery. George Kaiser here in town calls it that. If you start on second base, it's much easier to get around and score than not. So that's definitely something, great to keep in mind. There are people less fortunate than us out there that we should always work to help and try to bring people up. It's so great.
I'll tell you this about Eastsiders. Eastsiders are very loyal to each other. So they immediately, when you know somebody that's from the East Side, there's a bonding moment there. So
awesome. I'll keep my eye out for some Eastsiders and see if I can convince them that I'm one of them. Who do you most respect in your industry? Who do you look to? Who are you listening to podcast wise? Books that you're reading? Who locally or nationally, internationally? Who are you really following, keeping a close eye on to get an advantage in your business?
I kind of do what Warren Buffett said. I will spend early in the morning 40 minutes to an hour just combing through Yahoo Finance, reading articles. I love to learn about economics, and there's a lot to learn about right now with the Federal Reserve and everything going on. So I guess that's an advantage for me because I want to be able to talk to people about, interest rates and the housing market and what's going on. That's, I guess, but it's all across the board. I listen to all different sides of the story.
Yeah, love it. Anybody that you think that we should have on the podcast to talk to, be an interesting guest for us?
I would love to have Ryan Lynch, the guy I work with, and the president of Bargain. He would be a great person to talk to.
Ryan Lynch, he's the best. We'd love to have him on here. We've been talking to Scott Reeves, loan officer at Chickasaw Community Bank. Scott, where can people find more information about the bank?
You can go to our website and Google information, or feel free to give me a call. Can I give them my phone number?
Absolutely.
My number is 918-409-4329. If I can help somebody out, would love to talk to them.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you being on. Look forward to seeing you many more times.
Appreciate you.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Same Day Podcast. Tune in to a new show each week and be sure to subscribe to get future episodes.